I'm going to be tasting the 2016 vintage of David Ramey's Coal Creek Syrah. This is from Russian River Valley in Sonoma. The Russian River is a very distinctive place. It's known for growing grapes like Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and of course Syrah that are all suited to a bit more of a cooler climate that we find here in Napa Valley, where I live. And Russian River, though, is sort of this perfect mecca because it is closer to the coast than, let's say, Napa Valley. So it gets this cooling influence and fog that overlays the vineyards and slows down the ripening. But it is a little bit more set in from the coast than other appellations in Sonoma, like Sonoma Coast appellation, which would be much, much cooler. So you can get both this freshness and ripeness in the same glass. So only 100 cases of this wine was produced. So it's very special, very small production, and rarely seen aside from to David Ramey's own mailing list. He was really a pioneer. He was one of the American winemakers who put regions like Napa and Sonoma on the map. He was instrumental in doing things like researching indigenous yeast fermentation, surly aging, and malolactic fermentation in his Chardonnays. He also studied at UC Davis and has a thesis on how to produce complex aromas in wine, which I believe you'll find in this glass here. But he studied and worked not only in the United States, but he's also worked and studied in places like Chateau Petrus in Bordeaux. So he really has a blend of New World and Old World winemaking. And they founded, he and his wife founded David Ramey Cellars in 1996. It's still family owned and now carried on primarily by his children. So let's taste this beautiful glass. So you can see right away, it's kind of a deep ruby, very intense in color. And I do get those beautiful complex aromatics on the nose. One thing to note about this is that while it's Syrah, there is actually 7% of a white grape variety called Viognier that's in this glass. This is very commonly practiced with Syrahs from the Northern Rhone in France, so one of my favorite regions. And the reason why we do this is Viognier is a very aromatic grape variety. It actually can add sort of floral complexity to it. But it's complicated to do this because it has to be harvested at the same time because those grapes the wine isn't blended together after it's fermented. The grapes actually co-ferment, meaning they ferment in the same tank. So you really have to be a master at viticulture to be sure that your Viognier and your Syrah are ripe at the same time so that you can harvest them and get them in the tank at the same time. So I definitely get that little floral aromatic kick here. Lots of the beautiful aromas that I love about Syrah. There's sort of a gamey, bacony note to it. Violets, lavender, anise. Almost like an exotic spice note as well. On the palate, it has such a gorgeous texture. These tannins are like silk. It's got this sort of mouthfeel that unfolds with this beautiful, beautiful tannic texture. It's fresh, but it does have good concentration and ripeness at the core of it, and just a sort of a spherical feel on the palate. And then again, I'm getting those flavors that I noticed on the nose of this sort of gaminess. There's a very dark fruited note, kind of blackberry, black cherry note on the palate, and just a ton of complexity. It's a gorgeous wine. Enjoy.